ReZero is the best anime this season. Wrong. But two wrongs make a right. So actually I'm right, but also wrong. Isekai. It's something everyone knows at this point. Your SAOs and your no game no lives. What if I told you that Isekai could be good? You'd probably say I have a mental disability. Even though you're not wrong, it still hurts just a bit. ReZero isn't a slept-on show by any means. It's one of the biggest animes airing this season and beats out The God of High School by over 100,000 viewers. And I think it deserves its spot on top, and dare I say it's one of the best animes I've seen this year. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's look back at the humble beginnings of ReZero. The year was 2016. We were still armed and ready to consume any known isekai airing every season. We had to deal with shows like Asterisk, or should I say, Asterisk War. What? Not funny? There were a few good ones here and there, but we were getting tired of the same copy and paste shows with practically the same characters. Then winter 2016 hit, and we got Konosuba. And actually, Konosuba is also a really good show that came out that year, and should definitely be a must-watch for any isekai fan. Then spring 2016 arrived, and we got ReZero. ReZero follows Subaru as he is one day transported into a fantasy world. And instead of being the all-powerful being that most protagonists are, he was just a simple man. He had no magic, and even had to teach himself how to read and write. But the one thing that Subaru did have was returned by death. And yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. After he dies, he's able to respawn at a randomly chosen checkpoint, which makes this anime very unique in its own little way. And I'm not gonna act like I was the biggest fan of ReZero back then. I was on my elitist status at that point where I felt that I was too good for isekai at that point and didn't see a reason to think otherwise. But just as I thought everything was fine that season as I watched my hero, the Wifey Wars began. The Wifey Wars have been going on for centuries at this point. Every season we seem to have another battle for who's everyone's 2D wife. And though some battles only happen within the small fan base behind one show, ReZero ended up being a waifu war for the ages. Now the war was pretty small starting out, but then something happened that lit the fire that exploded into the biggest waifu war in recent history. It all started with a scene in which Rim pours her heart out to Subaru, but Subaru replies by saying that he loves Emilia. And this led us to the battle that has been reignited due to the new season finally coming out. And I know you're all wondering who I was cheering for. Was it Rim? Maybe Emilia. Maybe I was one of the people who liked Ram. But of course my choice was always clear. It was Beatrice. Yep, Beatrice. And now that I was able to give a quick history lesson, we can go on and talk about the greatness that is the second season of ReZero. Now I don't want to sound like an elitist, but I've seen a lot of good animes and a lot of bad animes. When an anime can make me feel emotions just from seeing and hearing the fictional character, that's when you know you've done something great. And both seasons of ReZero have been able to do that with soaring colors. Now as I said a few paragraphs back, the return by death ability leads to the story being very unique. Think about what happens when you die and respawn in a video game. You slowly learn more about the world and how to progress further with each death. And that's exactly what happens in ReZero, but in a much darker way because Subaru feels more like a real person than the MC you play in the game. Subaru is forced to see people he's close to die. He dies a lot, and even worse, he can't tell anybody about his ability and is forced to figure out things on his own. In other words, he's forced to suffer. In the last season, he got to a breaking point, and this season, even with only 8 episodes at the time of writing this script, he experienced one of his most gruesome deaths. This character has been through a lot since entering this new world, and the anime does a very good job of expressing all this with its voice actors, music, and being able to end the episode in the most painful of places. But before I go on to the reason I put this show on a pedestal this season, I'd like to touch on a few of the points I like. First off being pacing. You would think in an anime where the same parts are repeated over and over with slight differences, the pacing would be bad. But I think ReZero has handled this fairly well. The one scene from this season that comes to mind is when Subaru offers to be the one to go through the trials, after they had recommended it in his last life. But instead of accepting, they think there's something he wants to gain and lock him away. Another thing that I thought I would never think about as much is the voice acting. Subaru especially has so much emotion in his character, it's kinda scary. He can switch from being energetic to suffering so quickly, but you can still feel the pain in every scene. But there's one scene that more than any puts this anime at such a high place for me. And it could also be Subaru seeing his parents and apologizing, but this scene just means a lot more in my eyes. After the most gruesome death he had ever faced, he's ready to give up, bashing his head against the floor trying to die. That's when he gets invited to the witch's tea party for a second time. Here he gets to once again talk to Echidna, and for the first time in the entire series he's able to tell somebody about his return by death ability. He repeats it again and again as if this isn't real. There's no way after all this time he's able to let somebody know about all the pain. And Echidna knew all along but was never able to help. I've cried a lot while watching anime, but the build-up that led to this point made it hit that much harder. I heard that the voice actor was actually crying because he understood how much that moment really meant for Subaru. And the way it just ends with the "I know" and her stroking his head was just so good. That's what I would say makes ReZero such an incredible series. The emotion, the suffering, just everything about it. It's insane that I haven't seen people praise this anime as much as it should be. But if you haven't seen ReZero, I would say it's one of the best animes this season and probably the best anime this year, even if it is a season 2. I guess this is where I say things like subscribe and like the video, but more than that, go find an anime that means a lot to you and never forget that feeling. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I really worked hard on this one, so hopefully it does better than just 10 views. Anyways, this has been Yosmi. Until next time, peace.